Hello, I'm Uxue and I'm going to talk about the book The Murders in the Rue Morgue and Other Stories of Edgar Allan Poe. Poe was born in 1809 in Virginia, and he was the creator of the detective genre. His first story was The Murders in the Rue Morgue, published in 1841. The book tells three stories. The first is The Mask of the Red Death. The main characters of this book are Prince Prospero and the Red Death. The story tells that in a town that was devastated by a deadly plague called Red Death, Prince Prospero and his friends took refuge in a luxury palace. One day, Prospero decided to have a masked party to entertain his guests. The party was held in 7 rooms, each one decorated with a different color. At midnight, the guests saw a strange character with a Red Death mask. People were afraid of this character, but Prospero ran towards him with a knife. The mysterious man turned around and the prince fell to the ground and died, and little by little it happened to all the guests. The second story is The Pit and the Pendulum. The story is about a condemned to death by the Inquisition in Toledo who was taken to a dungeon where they left him without any light. While he was trying to discover what the dungeon looked like, he realized that there was a hole in the middle. At this time, he discovered what his sentence was. He was going to be morally tortured to death. Later there was a light in the dungeon. They had him on his back, stretched out on a wall table and tied with only his head and his right arm with which he took the food. On the roof was a pendulum, whose upper extremity was sharp steel. The pendulum would fall until it ended its life, but in the end it was able to escape thanks to the fact that he put meat on the ropes, and the rats beat them until they broke them. Then they tried to burn him moving burning walls. When he was about to fall into the pit to escape from the burning walls, he heard voices. He was about to pass out when a hand held him. It was General Lasalles. The French army had just entered into Toledo, so the Inquisition was in the hands of its enemies. And the last story is The Martyrs in the Rue Morgue. The main characters of this story are Dupin and the anonymous storyteller. This story is about the double murder of Madame L'Espanache and her daughter in Rue Morgue, a street in Paris. The murder took place in a room with difficult access, on the 4th floor, locked inside. The residents of the street who heard the murder said that they heard the killer speak a different language. Dupin, native of Paris, and his friend the anonymous storyteller read the articles of the murder with interest. When a man called Adolphe Lepon was imprisoned without evidences to point his guilt, Dupin is so intrigued that he offers his services to the G, the prefect of the police. Dupin began investigating these murders by finding evidences as a non-human hair that turned out to be an orangutan. He finally resolved the case and came to the conclusion that the killer had been the orangutan. My personal opinion is that this book is easy and quick to read, but it doesn't express the end of the story very clear, so you have to imagine it a little bit. I like this book and I recommend it especially to people who like mystery and horror books because it is a very sinister book.